Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Lincoln. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, on the website FloTrack.org/FloTrack podcast. Thunder and lightning this morning for me, Lincoln. What about in your neck of the woods?
No, I don't think so. Maybe if it was maybe really early, but I would have slept through it until about 7 o'clock. So the grass is wet outside, but you never know if that's just dew or if it actually rained here. Yeah, it's calm in my neck of the woods here, Kevin.
Okay, well, in 3 hours when the storm gets to you, then you can say that you were properly warned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it hopefully doesn't knock out the power. I'm getting a little worried because there is thunder and lightning. If it does knock out the power, no one will ever hear this. So this disclaimer will be for not. On today's pod, we did a deep dive last week on the Miracle Mile from 1954, Bannister v. Landy. We want to talk about another important race this time, but much more recent, the 2017 women's 1500 meter final. One of my favorite mile/1500s of all time. And I might add, the great Nick Willis, who was on the pod last week, said it was one of his favorite too. So that just cemented that we needed to do this podcast. With no prompting from me, he offered that one up as one of his favorite races of all time.
That does lend it some credence for sure. You cannot argue with the names that are in this. We will go through it in a bit, but when Jinzebe Dababa gets dead last, through faults of her own, but it's a deep race when that happens. So it's a good one. And the race itself is, I think, quite unique, and you can almost break it down, especially the last 100 meters. You could really watch that last 100 over and over and over again to kind of just see how it unfolds and see all the little things that break right for some people and wrong for others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did just that last night. I took copious notes. I didn't share them with you because I wanted to get your organic insight. I didn't want to sway your opinion on things, because a lot of my notes are 3 words with an exclamation mark after it. So I wanted to make sure that you had your own thoughts. You weren't influenced by mine. Before we do that, though, on Saturday night in California, Leo Dashback, a high school senior from Arizona, ran 3:59.54 in a all-star mile setup impromptu field that was cobbled together. He becomes now the 11th high school boy to break 4 in the mile, Lincoln, and moves to number 9 all time. What did you think of the race?
Well, he's got the world record during a pandemic, so that's nice. He can say that he is the fastest person to ever run while a nasty virus was going around in the world. I guess I haven't officially looked at all of them. Maybe somebody during the swine flu set a better record. No, it was cool. I was skeptical of this at first. I know the high schoolers have been eager and wanting to get out there and been running some really good time trials, and it's cool to see what they can do with time trials, because really you go through the high school season and you have your county meets and your smaller meets, and these guys ramp up until they're running their state meets and they're finally in good fitness, and then they go into the national meets, and oftentimes we don't get to see the full measure of how fast they can go. Just a limited opportunity, considering 85% of their season guys of the quality of Dashbach are walking over the rest of the field. So to see him full out here, and the way he finished was very, very impressive. I've learned to take a skeptical eye to these high school sub-4s, because there's been obviously a big avalanche of them in the last half decade, and not all these guys turn into immediate superstars. Some, maybe you could say, they lose interest or they peak too early. It's not the Alan Webb situation, of course. Obviously, there's 6 seconds of difference, but it's not this automatically means you're going to be a mega super duper star. I could mean that, and it's obviously fantastic what he did, but we used to look at this as an eye of, this is the future. Now we've had enough guys who have stumbled after breaking 4 that were like, that's not a guarantee yet. I'll be eager to see what he does. I mean, he's going to Washington and joining another guy who almost broke 4, Cruz Culpepper, of course, the son of Alan and Shane Culpepper. Washington's looking awfully good. Andy Powell is recruiting awfully well, it seems, early on. But yeah, my reaction, impressive the way he closed it, because when they came through at like 203, I almost shut off the stream. I was like, oh, they're not doing it. And he closed like a maniac. It was awesome.
Yeah, that last 400, it was almost like all those other guys were set up to pace him. And I know there were actually two rabbits in the race, but the way he flew by and accelerated on the backstretch, it looked like it was his race all keyed around him. And I know he's been doing some impressive time trials. 403 in the mile before that. He broke 150 in the 800. You brought up a good point about the high schoolers being the elite high schoolers being unleashed. They're not tethered to a high school schedule. They don't need to run and double and triple. And oftentimes they do have fast enough teammates to pace them through portions of these races. So they're able to rip off these quick times. And in the case of Dashback, you get the 403 under your belt, you're probably feeling pretty good that with some more competition and a better setup, you can go even quicker. So not surprised from that perspective. Just the more shots you have at it, the more chances you have to run something incredibly quick. And when you're a high schooler and you're running close to 4 minutes in the mile, there's not too many people who can run with you and provide you that guidance along the way and push you. But they were able to come up with it here. And I think you brought up a good point. You know, Gordon and I talked about this last week, the difference between junior and senior in the international sense of it. It's like everybody cares about the junior record, and then you age 1 year and you're every other person. You're just lumped in. Yeah, he's going to join a Washington team that's very good, right? So he comes in as, I'm the 9th best high school miler of all time. I broke 4 minutes, to I'm one of many on this team. I'm the 4th best guy. I don't have the stats in front of me, but Washington obviously has a bunch of guys that are under 4 or capable of going under 4. You just become another guy at that point.
I'm surprised we haven't seen Gordon's list, of guys on Washington's roster telling us what kind of cross country team they can have in the fall, and or what their 4x mile or DMR can look like.
He's projecting a 4x mile. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. It could be pretty good. Listen, if anyone is listening to this and they haven't watched the race, his awareness, obviously, your splits while you're going, but his awareness of when to make a move was really impressive. So often we see, and it doesn't make it any better or worse, but so often we see these races happen in professional fields. Sorry, that was escaping me there. And
hey, I'm right here for you, man.
You don't really have to do a whole lot of thinking. You're just out there racing, and that was the case for him as well. But like I said, to come back after a 203 first half, and not only to have the speed, but to kind of have the wherewithal to really have to work in lap 3 and obviously in lap 4 was quite impressive. Because again, most often I think back to Grant Fishers or Reed Browns. Those guys are coming through at 2 flat. I mean, the difference between doing this when you come through at 2 flat versus literally 203 is tremendous. And I literally was like, should I turn this off? This is gonna be a 401 race. When I saw him come over at 203, but to his credit, he made it happen.
I went from they're probably not going to do it because the halfway split is too slow, to with about 300 to go when he made the move, he's definitely going to do this. Is he going to run 356? He looked like he's a man possessed. He was flying down the backstretch. As you brought up before, no guarantee of success. We've seen people's careers go all sorts of directions after breaking 4 in the mile. But as my House of Run co-host Jason says, you'd rather run faster than 4 minutes than slower than 4 minutes.
Well, listen,
if given the choice.
Yeah, that sounds like a simple take, but it's if you actually look at that, I know we're just being silly, but there is some things to it, because now listen, there's not a whole lot of pressure in track and field. We like to say there is, but he's a lot bigger name now than if he would have run 4 flat 000.
Yeah.
So he does put a little pressure on himself. So you're saying, would I rather do this now and then hope that I can continue to get faster, or would I rather not do this and have that,
I'm just saying you'd rather be
in front of me?
I'm just saying
Yes,
you'd
of
rather be
course.
faster than not as fast. Yeah.
I'm just saying he's got a little bit of a target on his back now, not a huge one, because
Okay.
honestly, like it's track and field, and so he can't be quite as anonymous as maybe he could have been otherwise as a college freshman next year. I don't know if the pressure got to some guys like Matthew Maton, who's the kid from Pennsylvania. I can never think of his name. Slagowski, not
Slagowski.
Pennsylvania. You know, those guys,
He went to Penn
their
State.
career, yeah, those careers didn't pan out. And was it the pressure? Probably not, but it could have been. And so we see some of these guys. It's interesting to look at the 11 and be like, okay, an Olympic superstar, Jim Ryan, Alan Webb, American record holder, and then you run the full spectrum, and Verspikas flamed out, unfortunately, and guys like Sagowski flamed out, and so did Maton. It's interesting that nothing is a guarantee in life, but this is not a guarantee, and the fact that we still hold this with such reverence is interesting, knowing that. And I think it is just because it's an accomplishment in and of itself. It doesn't have to mean anything necessarily for the future. It's just something we continue to value. And I think even when it gets up to, this is the 30th U.S. high schooler to break 4, we're still going to give it the attention. Maybe not as much as Alan Webb, but or Grant Fisher, but it's this isn't going away. This fascination with the high school sub 4.
Yeah, it's a perfect encapsulation of where high school running is at. Like the depth is there now, but we don't still have. It still takes a special talent to get to the top of that list.
Yeah.
353
Yep.
is in a whole different league than
Well,
359.
Yeah,
And
of course.
going to the pre-classic and finishing 5th is in a whole different category of performance. And then being able to go and compete soon after that at USA's. But I just think, was there more pressure on Reed Brown than Cooper Tier, 2 Oregon guys? One barely went under 4 and one barely was over 4. I don't know if that still exists. I'd be curious to know.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. But to my credit, the one who didn't go under 4 is better now. So maybe,
yeah. Well,
that's
Sam Worley just
versus
missed.
correlation, but yeah.
Sam Worley just missed. He's had a great career. The interesting what if is the 2000 pre-classic. So 1 year before Alan Webb, Don Sage, as a high schooler, ran 4 flat. And I think if he ran 359, that would have been a huge deal because it had been since the 60s and he would have been the next one. Now Webb threw gasoline on that because not only did he break 4, he broke Jim Ryan's record, and he did it in such a spectacular, high profile moment that it made it that much better. But I think Sage, even going a couple tenths faster and running 359.99, wouldn't have had the high school record, but it would have been, here's the first guy to break 4 in high school since the 40 years, 30 plus years, whatever it was. I can't do math, but
it's okay.
A long time. And I think that one. Now, when you talk, like, you look at 2017, what was it? How many guys went under and how many guys ran 4 flat? 3 guys ran 4 flat and 2 guys went under, or 1 guy went under. I mean, it was just, it's becoming commonplace. So I think we do need to keep it in perspective. If someone turned in the 9th best 800 time in history, I don't think we talk about it as much, but we do have a round number bias here. So we
of course
talk about the 4-minute mile more than anything else.
Of course. Yeah. Somebody needs to hire the mile for their marketing PR campaign. No one's had a better run as far as marketability than the men's mile. So
yeah. All right, let's do our deep dive now. I'm excited about this one.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I don't know if you missed this, but just quickly, we can just talk about this for 30 seconds. The Impossible Games, Team Ingebrigtsen versus Team Chariot. Did you see that?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we fit this in. So, yes. So, a team consisting of Timothy Chariot and Elijah Manigoy and somebody else. I don't know. They're calling it Team Chariot probably because he's the world champion. It's not just filled with brothers, but they are going to race in Kenya over 2,000 meters at the exact same time, while the Ingebrigtsens race at Oslo over 2,000 meters. And the fastest combined 3 times will be the winner. Whilst at the same time, the Ingebrigtsens are going for the Steve Cram's 451 European 2,000 meter record. Can't get enough of records. Yeah, I just want to make sure you are aware of that, so we kind of get a resolution or figure out what the Ingebrigtsens are doing, and Timothy Chariot going at it, and it's remote. It's going to be fascinating to watch how they're going to pull this off, both technically and I don't know. It's fascinating.
The ultimate Garden 2K. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Yes. So that was just announced today. Managoy, I guess, is back and healthy, ready to go. They're going to be dealing with a little bit of altitude deficit, I guess, but they should be used to that. But in the coming days and weeks, we'll be having our picks and analysis of this fascinating 2K. Not sure why that's the distance they settled on, but I think the Ingebrigtsens wanting some more records has something to do with it.
So can you get me the full roster here?
Yeah, they haven't. So you have to. I think it's you have to compete with 5, I believe. Okay, yes. Let me see. Drop this in. Okay, so they're going to run in Nairobi. The race will be shown on international TV as a split screen competition and is named the Maury Plant Memorial in honor of the Australian athletics agent passed away in January. They're chasing the Ingebrigtsens are chasing 4:51:39. Yeah, I don't have the only Kenyan athletes they've announced to me is Timothy Chariot and Elijah Managoy, the last 2 world champions. So I don't know who else.
Because what if I told you this? What if I told you there were 3 Managoys?
Yeah, there are, right?
Yes, I just pulled up an email. So I emailed Elijah Managoy's agent back in 2018. I don't know if you remember this. He was wearing NOP clothes on Twitter, and people thought, did Elijah Managoy join NOP?
NOP. Yeah.
And so I wrote him, and he said no. And then he added a note that said his younger brother, so this is 2018, George, won the 1500 was that the youth championships or the juniors or whatever. He did something good. And then he added a PS. Now the 3rd Managoy started to practice.
Oh.
So that was 2018. So you could go, I don't know if it's fair because I don't know all the ages here, but you could go Managoy versus Ingebrigtsen just straight up.
Yeah, but God, Tim Chariot said, "I'm only competing if the name is Team Chariot. This is not happening."
And also, they're like, should we put Timothy Chariot on the team? Yes.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that'll work. So when the Ingebrigtsens raced last week, I was pretty good at predicting their time. So when this gets closer, I'll work up into the lab and figure out what we're gonna get here and have my picks. But this will be interesting. This piques my interest a little bit more than the Ultimate Garden Clash. The Ultimate 2K Tangle is that's just what I'm calling it for now. Is going to be quite fun.
So that's June 11th as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Good job staying focused on the wires, by the way, Lincoln.
Yes,
that was very good podcasting by you.
Yep.
Because if you didn't do that, we would have finished the podcast and started kicking ourselves because any crumb of news we need to devour like the ravenous podcasters that we are. Okay, are you ready to talk about this race now?
Yes, let's do it. Yes.
Okay, we got about a half hour, which I don't know if it's going to be enough time. I honestly, I don't know because I have so many notes. But first of all, let's just set the table here a little bit, okay? I think in this race there are 6 people that are noteworthy, and the reason why this race was so spectacular was there's not many times in track and field when everybody you hope to get to the starting line of a major championship actually gets to the starting line of the major championship. And then from there, all of their storylines were so fascinating. You had Caster Semenya. We'll start with her. Obviously, the 800 meters star from 2009 when she won her first world title, won in 11, won in 16. But she's new in the 1500. She's new in the 1500. Right. and only ran one 1500 that year, that 2017 season prior to the World Championships, and had only run one Diamond League 1500 in her entire career. Like that was her only European 1500. It was in Lausanne in 2018. You had Dibaba, world champ or record holder, silver in 2016 Olympics. You had Faith Kipyegon, the Olympic champion. You had Jenny Simpson coming in with multiple medals. You had Laura Muir racing at home and trying to break through for the first time. And then you had Sifan Hassan, who was bronze in 2015, fifth in 2016, but was on an absolute tear entering this meet.
Yeah.
She had the fastest time in the year, 3:56, and had won in Rome, in Hengelo, in Paris. And this looked to be her moment. One funny thing I noticed here, Lincoln, was when she was introduced as the world indoor champion, which is just funny that would be her top accolade back in 2017.
Well,
but that was true.
Kind of was. Yeah, it kind of exactly.
It was. Yeah,
it was. She was known for coming close, but no cigar outdoors. So, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So the 25th. So let's go back a bit here, even more. And so 2015 world champs: Dibaba gold, Kipyegon silver, Hassan bronze. Then you have 2016 Olympics: Kipyegon gold, Dibaba silver, Simpson bronze. So there were 4 people who had gotten medals in the last 2 major championships. And then you throw into those 4, you throw in Semenya, who's moving up in distance. And that's fascinating. In the same way, I think we would have been really interested if David Rudisha just decided, screw it, I'm going to run a 1500. Yeah. That would have been awesome. Yeah. And then you have Muir racing at home, trying to finally get a medal. And she had been running very, very fast in 2016. She ran 3:55. So she was right there, but she was just trying to get over that hump. So you had all 6 there, all with very interesting storylines themselves. What was the most interesting aspect of the race going into it?
Well,
like what was the
going
question
into
you had? Yeah, not of the race itself, because we'll get to that in a second. But just going into it, what was it? The Semenya angle? Was it, can Dibaba get back on form? Was it, will Muir figure it out? What was it?
Yeah, if I look back at the actual time, it was definitely about Dibaba, coming back. I think I can't remember if she was she injured, because she raced basically in July, and then she showed up and didn't race for the month before Worlds, which was kind of, seems like something she does frequently. And then of course she disappeared before 2019 Worlds as well. I don't know if she can't get healthy or what exactly is going on. We think back to 2017 with Dibaba. I think back to the fact that just a year prior, her training camp had been raided by the feds, I guess. So there was always drama associated with Dibaba. But for me, looking at this, I think back the fact that Hassan had beaten Kipyegon in Paris in their last race, I think in their last 1500 before this. So this was kind of, was Hassan going to break through and trump Kipyegon? That's what I was thinking, because Kipyegon had been very, very strong throughout the year, but the defeat, and we know Diamond League doesn't always translate, of course, to World Championships or Olympics, but seeing that and the fact that she seemed to be taking on a different edge since joining the Oregon Project, I think was it was a question about how she was going to be able to fare against this field. It seemed like she was at a new level.
I remember being really interested in the dynamic that Semenya presented, because if you remember in 15, it went out really, really slow. Dibaba went to the front with 800 to go God. And grinded things down. 16, it went out really, really slow, almost carbon copy of what happened in 17 in many respects. Mm-hmm. But I thought, are they going to be able to do that with Semenya in the race? Yeah. Are they going to be able to do that and get away with it? Semenya didn't have any experience, didn't really know how much longer stuff she was doing in training, or if she was just doing this just to see if she could pick up another medal. But that is what I wondered about. And in retrospect, it's interesting because the race looked pretty similar. They went out really, really slow again in this one.
And on the Semenya side, I think her inexperience in this distance really shows in this race. Yes, she gets a, no spoilers, but a spoiler medal. But her positioning, I thought, was horrible throughout this race. Now, I know she has a bigger body, so her tucking inside isn't going to be as easy, and she hangs to the outside and gives herself a chance. But and Kipyegon is fantastic, and Simpson, all the athletes here and have way more experience. But she was all over the place and was back for quite a ways. Now, she doesn't make the worst tactical decisions. We'll save that for Safan Hassan. But here, it was wild to rewatch this and just see that when you think of, I know the 800 and 1500 are way different, but when you think of the way Semenya runs an 800 where she's entirely in control the whole way, she was letting everyone else dictate. And of course, like I said, that's probably the fact that this is not her distance, but man, could you see that here? She didn't look comfortable the entire way and was basically just saying, I'm not going to make any moves. I'm just going to kick for home because I know I've got the best finishing speed. But it was weird to watch that because, like I said, the differences between the way she runs at 800 and a 1500, polar opposites.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into that meet. And I think an important thing happened in the prelims, and that was Dibaba is the second to last person to qualify for the final. And that's rare to have a favorite, a reigning champion, barely squeak in, and then somehow in the final find second life. Usually that's a red flag, a big warning that something is up. But she's the world record holder. She owned 2015. So you still think, okay, she's got a chance. Do you think, though, she ran a tactical race in 15 and it worked, but then they tried the same thing in 16 and it didn't work, and then she tried the same thing again in 17. Now she got last, so you could say, well, she just didn't have it, so it didn't really matter what plan she took on. But in a race like that, where you have someone who can close like Semenya, and obviously someone who can close like Kipyegon, because she did it to you the year before, I'm surprised that this thing did not go out harder, even though the two previous championships were slow as well, too. I thought at this one of these people would have learned the lesson and not left it late. Like someone like Mir or Safan Hassan, who had been running 356s all the time, would try to make it a 1500-meter race from the gun.
Yeah, obviously, knowing through years of track and field watching and whatnot, it's always easier said than done. And with Dibaba, you would think if she was struggling at all, she's going to she doesn't want to do it. If she's questioning her fitness, I think you just say, listen, in 2015, which was only 2 years ago at this point, I closed in whatever it was. Would she close in like 158 or something? It's like something absurd, 159.
Yeah.
You hope for that again. And so if it's a long push, that might be kind of helpful. With Hassan, one thing, I mean, you watch this and then see what she did 2 years later, where she just blasted from the front. Yeah. I mean, really, the two situations couldn't have been much more different, going down or all the way down to the fact of the crowd very present here, loaded stadium, to Doha, where there's hardly any people. But here, through the first 900 meters, she's in last place. And 2 years later, she's going at it from the gun. So I think she learned her lesson here. So Hassan, 600 meters to go, tries to have the long drive for home, and it almost works for her. I think there were a ton of tactical errors here. I think Dibaba was one of them. I mean, she was in there kind of like Semenya, didn't seem like she had a plan. It's always fascinating to me, the athletes that are these world-class athletes and can even be champions, that seem to just be followers instead of kind of takers. And Semenya and Hassan were not Hassan, but Semenya and Dibaba seem to be like that, where they just have no clue what they're doing tactically. And this race in particular rewarded those who made the right decisions. And but it starts out as a race that it's like no one wants to take it, and Mir goes straight to the front, which I think was a decent move. We ride her a little bit for, it's like, oh, she can't figure out the tactic. I think in a slow pace, getting yourself up front is not necessarily a bad thing here. And so I almost wanted to do an article like ranking from first to Dibaba, the tactical blunders here, because it's fascinating.
You're being hard on Hassan, which I think you're being too hard on Hassan, because She went out in last in Doha this year too. She only stayed there for about 300 meters before she got impatient
Okay.
and
Okay.
realized that
Okay.
she's the
Yeah.
best runner in the field.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. She did start out in last in this one. The crowd was packed. You could just feel the energy. I don't know. I was rewatching it, I was almost getting goosebumps again because I was going
Hmm.
back to that moment. The announcers are saying things like, it's going to be an absolute classic. It's the greatest field ever assembled. Every single protagonist is there. It was just, again, so cool to see it all come together. Everybody at full strength, and then the gun goes off and it goes super slow, and then the tension
Yeah.
just builds and builds.
Hmm.
65-35 for the first 400. Is that, I think that's right, which wasn't insanely slow, but then they throw in a 71 second lap.
Yeah, I mean, you just if it's going to be in the mid 60s, then you just know the next lap is going to be just dreadfully slow. Um, I wanted to do a remix of British or European announcers, all the different ways that they say that a race is slow, and sometimes it's slow, but it's absolutely pedestrian, stuff like that. It's just like I need like a
The
tape of that
pace
because it's
is agonizing, Lincoln.
yeah. I
Just
mean, it's just like
agonizing.
we see it's, and we're still. I'm not turning it off just because it's so slow. I mean, they do. I know that's stuff we do as announcers as well. It's always funny. It's like, oh, here it comes. The pace is slow. Okay. It's I don't know what the world record is for the quickest that an announcer has declared a race to be slow, but this one was got to be pretty close to it because I feel like it was said within the
Well,
first like 200 meters.
it's funny you say that because I rewatched the Penn Relays 4x mile from 2015 over the
Mm-hmm.
weekend because Gordon said that it was his favorite mile of all time, and I thought that was the worst take of Gordon's many horrible takes.
Yeah,
And
that's not a good
you are
one.
on the mic with him. You are on the mic with
Mm-hmm.
him, which old Lincoln on the mic sounds like current Lincoln, but with 3 beers. It's really kind of a weird
Yeah.
experience. And
Well, it's more accurate than you know, but yeah.
they would get, so they passed off to Cheserek,
Yeah.
and Villanova was close by. The camera isn't even on the anchor leg runners yet at this Penn Relays race, and you start yelling it's a jog already because
Yeah.
the camera is still on the other people making the pass.
Good.
So you're
It's good
talking about
technique.
something. Yeah, not great commentary. You got to talk about what's on the screen.
Mm,
But I think you might have that record that you just said about
yeah.
earliest
Good.
that it was tactical, because you
Good.
said it
Good.
literally as he gets the stick. And then it cuts to them. And you're absolutely right. You guys called it from the
Yeah.
get go. Obviously, then it got more absurd as it went
Yeah.
along. And then it culminates with that one weird backstretch thing where they're jogging, and then the Georgetown guy goes out wide and like does a sprint for like
Yeah.
20 meters and then stops
Yeah.
again. Gordon, by the way, called it embarrassing twice, and then now all of a sudden it's his favorite mile race of all time. So that was great. In any event,
That's yeah.
it was tactical. The tension
Mm-hmm.
builds. So they're 217 through 800. You knew somebody, and that's the other thing. How many
Cue
times,
the
how many
song
ways does
music. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
I think, okay, the first nominee to go there would have been Dababa, but she's not right for whatever reason
Yeah.
because she went with 800 to go in 2015. Muir, I think, would have been another nominee, and then Hassan as well. But Jenny Simpson's not going to go because she's a
No.
master
No.
tactician. She knows exactly what she's doing. Semenya's not going to go because she's going to kick, and Kip Yegon is also very confident in her clothes. So it had to have been either Muir or Hassan in that case. And it ends up
Mm-hmm.
being Hassan who is the aggressor and who takes the bait. And immediately there's a gap,
Mm-hmm.
and it splits the field at that point with 600 to go. Muir gets boxed in because, of course, Dababa tries to make a move, but it's very reactive at that point.
You always want to cover moves, and this
Good
one
life
was
advice.
this one was so yeah. This one was so aggressive that I was a little surprised to see Simpson cover it so quickly. But when Hassan zooms around and then they're at like 575 to go, Simpson covers it immediately as if to know, and obviously when she's doing something, it's basically the right move. That even this far out, this is super serious. And I thought that was a key moment for her, because not everybody did that. So I think much and Simpson did, but that to me was a sign of respect for how good Hassan had been going, and knowing that it was a very real possibility that she could drive this home from 600 meters out and win it.
I think the issue that people have with Muir is that in races like this and other ones is she's not sticking with one strategy. And I think if she was the aggressor with 600 to go and just made the bold move, the heroic journey to home, and it didn't work, it's fine. But it's a little bit of everything that she has tactically.
Mm-hmm.
And Simpson is different. She commits to her strategy. Either she goes or she waits, and you know exactly where she's going to be. When I was watching this, I thought back to 2015 because I rewatched that one. She was glued right to Dababa's back, and then she lost her shoe.
Yep.
She had her shoe stepped on with 2 to go, and then at 600 to go, she kicks the thing off. But I rewatched that race, Lincoln, and I'm not saying she would have beaten 100% Dababa in that race, but she certainly would have medaled. She certainly would have medaled in that race, because with 600 to go, Jenny Simpson in second, that's a good position for her to be in. Look at how she's done historically in that spot.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I have the take here that I don't think Muir ran a bad race here. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think so either.
Take.
I'm just saying. No. All I'm saying is that the critics of her tactics would just be, or if I was, looking at it from an analyst perspective, it's like, commit to one thing, because I mean, this is Muir all time. This is Muir all time in the 1500
it's brutal.
Outdoor championships. 5th, 7th, 4th, 5th.
Yeah, it's tough.
She's always there. Tough. She's always there.
Yep. This may have been her closest. I mean, well, this was when she finished 4th, so yes, it was. But she had it. I mean, her and Hassan have it in the last 100, and then it all falls apart for them. But walk me through the last
304.
Yeah.
Okay. They hit the bell in 304. Hassan is in the front. They hit 1200 and 318.94. So that 400 was a 61.81. So they go from a 71 to a 61, just like you draw it up. And
Hassan probably ran a 59, right? I mean, to get to where she is.
Yeah. Semenya is an 8th, which will be important later on when we talk about this. And not just a 8th at the back of a pack, but there's like 3 people, then a little bit of a break, then 2 people. They were scattered throughout that backstretch.
Yep.
And then we get to 200 to go. Muir's into 3rd, and the crowd gets loud because there's Hassan and Kipyegon, a little bit of a gap, Muir, and then a gap to Simpson. Now, having a gap on Jenny Simpson with 200 meters to go of about 5 to 10 meters is like being ahead 8 points on the Warriors going into the 4th quarter.
Yeah, it's not
you are not
super
safe.
Relevant. Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. It could be erased at any moment. And in retrospect, you probably look a bit silly thinking that it will hold up, because almost as quickly as she got that lead, Simpson just kicks it into overdrive and starts mowing people down. But then with 100 to go, which, as you mentioned, you could write a whole book on the last 100. Kipyegon and Hassan neck and neck. That looks like gold and silver. Muir's in 3rd, but then Simpson is closing, and Semenya is now already up to 5th and is closing. Dababa at this point is drifting back. She made a little bit of a bid early on, but she's drifting back. And it looks like these 5 are going to be the top 5 finishers. And you think you have an idea about how they will place, but it goes completely haywire there.
I will never understand, and no one has ever given me the full explanation for why this always happens or seems to happen. But the Hassan with Simpson coming on her back, drifting out into basically lane 1.5. why does that always happen? Like, why? I mean, if that doesn't happen, I mean, Simpson may be blocked because she's not going to be able to go wide. So
Yeah.
Hassan gives Simpson that inside lane, which helps her get silver. Now, and they do on the clip on the World Athletics page, they do a nice like slow-mo view of like Simpson
Yeah.
clearly like marking Hassan and seeing when she goes wide, and that's exactly when she takes her chance. On the other side, it means Semenya is just, I'm a sub 50-second 400-meter runner. I'm gonna destroy you. Because again, like I said, she's way outside and didn't run, I don't think, that great of a race. But she just has the overwhelming speed. But Hassan, I mean, it's just a tragedy and almost a comedy of errors. And I feel comfortable saying that now that she's the 1,500 and 10,000 meter global
Hold on.
champion. And basically,
Hold on.
yeah, go.
Hold on. First of all, Faith Kipyegon's last 100 was the least interesting, and she won the gold medal because she just keeps going and wins.
Well, I mean, and I let's not take any credit from her because we talk about Simpson, and obviously there's some bias. They're saying she's a master tactician. Kipyegon runs a perfect race, and she's also just clearly way better than everyone in this field because she absolutely destroys Sifan Hassan in the last 100. It is just a blowout. It's incredible.
But I know I'm saying that to say that we're probably not going to talk about Faith Kipyegon right now as much because her last 100 was so good. It was kind of boring. And behind her was a Shakespearean drama and a Coen Brothers movie all in one. Yeah. It was just everything. So I remember thinking that Hassan drifted out way more than she did. Now, when I rewatched it and I saw all those replays, she is in lane 1.5-ish. She's also got elbows and a very wide, for those of you watching on the video, I am simulating Sifan Hassan's arm carriage when she runs. Famously in 2018, there was some rubbing there. There was some bumping and bruising at the World Indoor Championships. Why does she move out a little bit? One, I think it's momentum. Two, I think it's smart tactics to go a little bit out. Don't leave enough space for someone to go in, which obviously she did, but then you force people to go outside. What happens here is not Sifan Hassan making a huge mistake. It's Jenny Simpson pulling off a Houdini act on the inside. I have no idea how she gets through there. Two people are not supposed to fit like that, going at that speed with no contact. And the person who really suffers from it is Laura Muir. Muir moves outside because she has to go around Sifan Hassan, right? Thinking that Simpson is going to be blocked. She's not looking at Jenny Simpson, but Muir's move was right. She's moving out. She's moving out to go around Hassan, and then Simpson takes the inside route. And again, you have the wild card there of Caster Semenya, and it all boom collides at the finish. The last 30 meters, there could have been any different combination of silver and bronze there.
Yeah, it's the butterfly, the Simpson butterfly effect is quite,
how did she get through there? I still don't know.
Wide. I don't know, because I don't know if Hassan's elbows weren't quite as sharp as they are in modern age now, or how she exactly fit. To me, you were saying it doesn't look like in hindsight, looking back, it wasn't as much as you thought. I thought it was a decent amount of space. It's not like she had to step the rail or anything to get through there, but it was just enough. It was just enough room for her to slip by, and she was fading a little bit too. So it's just yes, Hassan was the wherewithal of Simpson to do that is simply incredible. It'd be worth asking her to know exactly what was going through her head if she
risk. What if Hassan takes a quarter of a step inside?
Yeah, we have
Jenny Simpson's on the infield.
Yeah.
Not only is she not, she's probably getting sixth. There's probably somebody else who comes up from behind her because her momentum is completely stopped. I mean, yeah, you're right.
You're saying
you're
saying most people wouldn't go for that move. I mean, that's how it was just too small of a little gap.
1,000% most people wouldn't. She would turn for home. She'd look at the home stretch. She'd see what's in front of her, and everybody does that. Everybody drifts and drifts and drifts, which is why you have oftentimes people almost out in lane 3 finishing these races. But I don't know if it was, I'm just this far committed, I'm already up her back, and I didn't think Sifan was going to slow down this much. And now that she has, I need to make a move. But based on Jenny Simpson's CV, I'm willing to think it was planned. And they had one of the, did you see one of those replays? She's like Mike Singletary reading like the running backs hips or something.
Yeah.
Like she's
Yeah.
looking and scanning and scanning and
Yeah.
scanning. And you can almost see her eyes light up when she notices that there's just that little break and she's able to get through. It was incredibly risky. If Laura Muir did that and it didn't work out, the entire British press would have left the stadium and lit the printing presses on fire. I don't know, they don't have printing presses in 2017, but in this analogy, just go with me here. Like they would have said that was what are you doing trying to pass on the inside? But I think part of it, at least initially, and maybe we can get Jenny on the show to talk about this and be like, we want you on for an hour to only talk about the last 100 meters of the London 1500. I think maybe she thought, hold the line on lane 1. Sifan's going to come across. She's not going to die that much, so he won't even need to worry about passing on the inside. And then the opportunity just availed itself, and she scooped it up. But there was a huge risk there, Lee.
Is Jenny Simpson like, this may not come off as an apt comparison until you let me explain, but like the Dennis Rodman of track and field, in the sense that Dennis Rodman famously, like everyone's been reiterating over the last couple of weeks, it was like, you know, studied rebounding, knew his teammates' tendencies for where their misses went. Did Jenny Simpson study how all of her competitors, or at least all the athletes that she thinks there's going to be there in the last 100, does she study their bodies and you know, does she measure their how much room is going to be if they're in lane 1.5? I mean, is she that in tune with the science? I mean, we don't, because we talk about tactics like it's like the last 1% to figure out when you're an elite racer. But for someone like Simpson and other athletes, of course, it's not just the Americans, because it seems like we could fall into this trap of being like, oh, the Americans are so, you know, so tactically sound, or, you know, it's not at all true. But for her, it is almost like she devotes a lot more energy than most to knowing these final last percentage points, because it's something that's very underrated. But I think it absolutely pays off for her to have such body control and to take such a calculated risk here.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I just think at that level, she knows that's with that distance being so quirky, that can sometimes be the difference between a medal and no medal. And even where you position yourself with 400 to go matters, because that could be a difference between getting second or getting 7th, right?
Yeah.
The margins are so small. I just think, look, you've run track before, not at the World Championships, not even at the NCAA Championships, but you've done a bunch of track workouts and you've run a bunch of races on the track. Passing on the inside is unnatural, right? It feels weird. It feels like you're doing something you're not supposed to do. And oftentimes when you try to do it or you think about it, you might hesitate and say, oh, should I go there? And you take one step and you realize, okay, no, that's not going to work. Now, this is a much higher stakes game, but that just furthers my point. It more often goes wrong than right. Wasn't it? It was Robbie Andrews in 2016 at the Olympics, right? Ended up on the inside of the track. Now that not apples to apples comparison, but things like this can go wrong. You can get disqualified. You can bump into people. I just, again, so much other stuff is happening in that race, and it's just like an explosion at the end there, because you're looking every single different direction. But that was the thing that stood out to me, and I'm glad on the broadcast they showed the super slow-mo from every possible angle, because the commentators were in disbelief too. They were like, wait a minute, how did Simpson do this?
Yeah. Yep. No, it was a full-on masterclass of her entire race, not only just covering moves earlier, but then the threading the needle was unbelievable. Unbelievable move, and it's no wonder that she has how many medals now? She has 4 medals. It's
Mm-hmm.
deserving of them. She squeezes the absolute most out of all of her ability for sure. Because
And she's got a lot of ability. Let's not underrate
yeah,
that too.
no. It's just, but it just feels like somebody that she's not somebody that's run is running 354, 355 all the time. Now she's run super fast, and I feel like what is her PR 357 maybe, which is obviously fantastic. But the consistency and showing up, and they say it over and over. They talk about it. Somebody that always seems to get it right at the championships. I mean, it's that's the most important skill to have as a track and field athlete, and that's why we revere her so much, is because the opposite is a Laura Muir, somebody who in probably diamond leagues for the most part is going to whip Jenny Simpson's butt. Not always, but for the most part. But then when it comes to the championships, the narrative becomes, oh, Laura Muir close, but never figured it out. Jenny Simpson, now she's done this so many times, you just figure she's going to find a way. And that has to do with that's tactics, 100%.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean she medals every single time, but she's going to be there. And if her decisions, if she's in position with the last lap, you think she's going to get a medal.
So Mir misses the bronze by 0.07 because Semenya goes crashing across the line there. You could almost have some leaning differential there because Mir was a bit back, and obviously Semenya threw herself forward. The finishing time, 4:02:59. No one really paid attention to that. Something I noticed in the post-race interview, Maraf Bata apparently was heated. She wanted to have a protest because Simpson made an aggressive move on her with 600 to go, and people asked Simpson in the mix zone, do you think there'll be a protest? Did you do anything untoward? God. And Simpson just brushed it off. I went back. You can't really see them kind of make contact, but it was 600 to go. I want to do real quick before we talk about the aftermath of what happened next, real quick, like lightning round that I'm introducing to all these watchers all these races that we rewatch, where you propose an alternate strategy for them. So obviously with the big six, what could Kip Yegon have done differently? Nothing. I think she ran perfectly, obviously, because she won the gold. Simpson, could she have done anything differently? Let's go through these real quick.
I don't think so.
Because I'd say no.
Yeah.
What should Muir have, or what should Hassan have done differently, if anything?
I think made her move with 1 to go, not with a lap and a half to go. That's my opinion. She ran out of gas. I mean, I think it was too much. She went from 12th to first with 650 to go, and that was too much, and that's what cost her a medal.
See, I think the opposite. I think she should have done the slow wind up from 3 out, or done the 2019 playbook. Yes, she would not have run 351.
Yeah,
but she was the best right at that moment, flat out from the gun, with Dibaba being hobbled. Okay, yeah. Semenya, could she have done anything differently? Should she have done anything differently?
I think so. Yeah, I think she should have been in position. I think she should have been in the top 3 group. It wasn't too fast for her. Yeah, I think she would have. I mean, knowing that she kicked down however many people. How many people did she run down in the last lap? We know she went.
She was 8th.
Excuse me, beat Muir and Hassan, but she was passing multiple people before that, I think. So she could have been way better position, and maybe we're talking about a double gold medalist here. I don't think so because Kipyegon's so good, but certainly a possibility.
Okay. All right, Muir and then Dibaba. What's
Muir's
Muir's alternate outcome?
Because I actually think, like I said earlier, I think she ran a pretty good race. You'd have to remind me, like, does she get boxed at a certain point, or what is it? Because I don't feel but yeah. I mean, so it would be in the middle, because somewhere in the middle, and I'd have to go back, and I did watch this again last night, so it's not like I'm just going on this blind 3 years on, but I'd have to go specifically to what exactly she did, because I don't think she's I don't think a strategy for her going from the gun is going to work, and I don't think a strategy just waiting for the last 400 is going to work. So I actually thought she did okay. It seems like maybe she fell asleep in a little bit in the middle laps when Hassan started to go. So maybe covering that move a little bit better. But what were your thoughts?
I disagree. I think she should have gone from the gun. I think she should have become best friends with Sifan Hassan the day before, and they should have said, "Hey, listen,
Yeah,
we are both very, very fast. In this final, we're going. There's four other women who can medal in here besides us. One of them is Genzebe, who barely made the final. One of them is the best 800-meter runner in the world. Another one is a
yeah,
tactical
okay,
genius, and the other one is the Olympic champion, who's probably going to be there regardless. Let's try to get rid of at least three of those people, and then
yeah,
both of us can medal. And for
yeah,
Muir, a medal would have. She still doesn't have a medal, so even getting third, I think, would have been a huge accomplishment. I would have said go hard from the gun. Now, in retrospect, we
okay,
have the precedent because we watched those 2019 1500s, but that's what I think she should
okay,
have done. It didn't. I mean,
mm,
she's really good at these. Muir makes these valiant moves for home that ultimately are very ineffective.
yeah,
Right? Like she makes a push. She makes a push with 600 to go, or she makes a push with 300 to go, and they get the crowd going and they get people excited. But like, as I'm saying, commit to it. You got to commit to
hmm,
it and
yeah, you're
do it
right,
at a point
yeah,
when you make it happen. That's what I think. And then the last
yeah.
person would be Dibaba. And the only advice I would have had for Dibaba would have been to maybe not just set every like world indoor record every season and focus more on the outdoor season.
Yes, I would agree with that. No one cares that you're time trialing 3Ks in February in Sweden. They would prefer or give you more. And I know she's got the world titles. And I'd forgotten that she was silver in Rio, probably because anything she does that's not gold was kind of a disappointment. But yes, definitely, if we're going to look back on her career, and I don't know if we've seen the best of Jinzebe Dababa yet. I assume we have, uh,
Yeah.
yes, I would say, let's save some of the February magic for August and September, and maybe you have a chance to show up healthy.
So the aftermath of this race, Semenya goes on and wins gold in the 15 or in the
Mm,
800. That was after. So this was her little warm up. Dibaba scratches the 5,000. Hassan
not
gets
surprising.
bronze. Hassan gets bronze in the 5,000. We talked about, I mentioned Mirror's all time fifth, seventh, fourth, fifth. So still looking for that medal. Simpson has 4 medals. Didn't get one in Doha, but ran ridiculously fast.
Yep.
And this was Hassan's last global championship before outdoor championship before world domination.
Yes. She became a totally different athlete in 2019, and of course her coach was banned. So people are gonna she had to answer some tough questions from me and the media. Me and the British media were
Just
kind of
you.
tight. Um,
You guys
but
had an
it's crazy.
alliance too.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy how things have changed for her, because you did kind of look at her as like as someone like a Laura Muir, even though she had some medals and she had won some world indoor stuff. It's like, well, when is Hassan going to figure it out? And she figured it out by just saying, screw tactics. I'm just going to
Yeah.
flaunt my fitness over everyone. So that does lend credence to what you're trying to say with Muir, and obviously what you're trying to say with Hassan. Just go, just go, and
Yeah.
absolutely, even after rounds, just try to run a PR, and that's your best chance.
She had run 355 the year
Mm-hmm.
before, and Sifan
Yep.
Hassan was running 356s, multiple 356s. They could have made it work somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struck by just that era being so cool, and I don't know if we're still in that era. Obviously, Semenya is not out there, which
Yep.
is a huge bummer, and Dababa's not consistently at that level
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Who
But
knows?
like, but you had all these years where it was Simpson, Dababa, Kipyegon, Hassan, Muir, all of them mixing it up. And I think next year we could still get a Simpson, a Kipyegon, Hassan, Muir. Muir still has a chance for a medal. I mean, she could still get a gold medal, right? Her career is not
Oh
done at
yeah.
all. We have some new names circling in there as well. People like Shelby Houlihan, for example,
Yeah.
or Sagai from Ethiopia. That 1500 last year was obviously super duper fast. But I think what I liked about this race, as the commentators mentioned, all the protagonists were there, and then you had the wild card effect of Semenya thrown in the mix. We
Yeah.
may get these people racing again. I don't know if we'll get a race this good in this era again because of everything that was at play there.
No, I don't. I mean, you just don't. I mean, Semenya, someone with all the buzz around her. Obviously, you're unlikely, especially with the current rules, to get someone of uh, like her ever again.
Yeah.
So that does put the kind of the icing on top of the cake here for making this one an all-time race. And and Muir at home makes it extra. It just gives it that extra, like the Brit when they announce her, the Brits all throw up the Union Jack. It's like it's on every time something is in London, it's like it's on a different planet. It's like someone's tricked them into thinking track and field is soccer or something. It's just it always is crazy to see. It's exciting to see that when people are that excited about track and field. It's just it is not the norm.
It'd be like if the World Championships were at Drake next year and Shelby Houlihan was in the final.
Yeah.
And the stadium was 3 times the size. It was like that home, when you have a hometown person in the race, it just makes it, in a track and field meet, it just makes it so much more interesting to watch from a spectator's perspective. It's cool when they're cheering for sides and they're not just cheering for everybody to have a good race and have fun out there. It's exciting it's exciting when someone's getting a bigger roar than all the other ones, because this is, after all, competition.
Sports. Yeah.
Sports. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com. I think that's going to do it for us, Lincoln. Thank you for indulging me on this. This was fun. I legitimately had fun doing the research and rewatching the races and chatting about it with you. Yeah,
I encourage people to go watch when World Athletics will post them now, and they post the full aura of it. They don't do like a highlight that you maybe would see like in a documentary. There's not like, and in this race before in the Diamond League went like this, and they don't set the stage, but they do everything. But they do the intros and they show the stadium, and then they do the athletes going into the stands to get flags afterwards. And so it's the full experience. So I encourage, if you got 15-20 minutes, to people to go watch this race and watch the entire thing. It's really cool. I was watching the 2016 race, and one of the commentators said, as they zoomed down into the stadium, the women's 1500, one of the more important races in the championships, which I thought spot on. That's good. That's interesting. One of the more important races, much more important than the 400. He said, or they said something like always an important race. It was some very weird statement. Yeah. In any event, if people have recommendations of races to rewatch, I'm willing to make this a weekly ongoing segment, Lincoln, because even if track does come back, we have 4 other days in the week to record, so we can always do one of these a week. I mean, eventually we're going to have to do the men's 800 in London 2012. I mean, I'm sure that's been done. I mean, I know there's not a ton of track podcasts that rewatch old races, but if there's ever been a rewatched race to go deep on, the men's 8 in London from 2012 needs to be one. Let's do it. Yep. I'm in. Sold. All right. That's it for today's show. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for joining us. And you can check out some recent podcasts we did. Lincoln and I talked to Mary Kane on the previous episode. And then 2 before that, Gordon and I talked with Nick Willis. It was fun. So I hope everybody checks those out. We got a bunch of old interviews on there as well, too. We've done 71 podcasts, I believe. So go back, dip into the catalog a bit. All right. That's it. See you guys.